Yesterday, a bombshell was dropped, as it was said that the Southport killer was charged under the Terrorism Act, and was said that Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper knew all about it and were gaslighting the British public. It's been silence in the fallout of it from Labour, despite the Conservatives and Reform urging him to have his say. Ahead of Prime Minister's questions today, the Speaker put a stop to questions surrounding the quote-unquote ongoing investigation in Southport. However, Richard Tice indirectly asked him a question to do with the incident, and Starmer replied, well, sort of in his way. We will check what he said, react, and go over all of the latest news form up and down the country. But first, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and join our fast-growing community. So as stated ahead of PMQs, the Speaker put it a stop to questions surrounding Southport, but Tice indirectly asked him a question for what he was accused of being a part of. Have a watch.
Richard Tice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government's own independent reviewer of terrorism legislation, Jonathan Hall Casey, has said repeatedly recently that it is important in incidents of terrorism that the authorities put out more information sooner in order to prevent an information gap. Does the Prime Minister agree?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, obviously I'll tread carefully in answering this question for the very reasons that you yourself set out at the beginning of this session. I think it's very important, first and foremost, that in all cases, including the particularly difficult case that the Speaker mentioned earlier, that the police and prosecutors are able to do their difficult job. And all of us in this House have a choice to make, including both candidates to be the next Tory leader. They can either support the police in their difficult task, or they can undermine the police in their difficult task. And I know which side I'm on.
Rachel Blake.
I wish to remind the House that the following horrendous, terrible incident in Southport on the 29th of July, a suspect is awaiting trial, having been charged with multiple offences. That means the House sub judice resolution is engaged and references should not be made to the case. I know that all honourable members wish to see justice done in this case. It is therefore of paramount importance that nothing is said in this House which could potentially prejudice a proper trial or lead to it being abandoned. I know it can be frustrating when we can see reports in the media of the matters that we are not free to discuss here. But that arises from Parliament's constitutional relationship with the courts. More importantly, at the heart of this case are 3 young girls. We all want to see justice done for them and for their families, and for others injured in and affected by this appalling incident. Speculation about the cases, including comments made in this House, could seriously risk prejudicing proceedings. I know that none of us would ever wish to do that. Therefore, it would be wrong of me to exercise a waiver in this case, and members should not refer to it or risk prejudicing this case. Of course, I understand that members have legitimate questions about the circumstances surrounding this case. There will be no doubt wanting ministers to commit that they will come to the House and answer those questions once the legal proceedings are concluded. I give my assurance that I will ensure there are ample opportunities to do so. My understanding is that this trial is expected to start in January, and if members have questions about the operation and the decision on sub judice's resolution, they can speak to the clerks and the Speaker's Council. In the meantime, our thoughts are with the family and friends of Bibi, Elsie and Alice, and all of those who were injured and affected on this horrendous day.
This what the Speaker said at the start of PMQs. In other news, Britons are being warned of the latest driving law changes set to be launched over the coming months, which could have a huge impact on motorists. November will likely be dominated by the aftermath of the autumn statement, which Rachel Reeves will unveil later today, as well as changes to public EV chargers, and one of the most important US elections in modern history. With the new rules being introduced over the next few weeks, British Stand has rounded up the most important driving law changes in November that could impact you. Budget. Rachel Reeves will unveil Labour's first budget in government later this afternoon, with many expecting major changes to be introduced that will impact millions of British motorists. Experts and think tanks have highlighted how the Chancellor could target fuel duty as a way to address the £22 billion black hole in funding, potentially hiking petrol and diesel prices by at least 5 pence. The 5 pence per litre fuel duty cut was unveiled in March 2022 by former Chancellor Rishi Sunak in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, with the freeze being extended twice. It is currently set to expire next March. Car tax changes could also be included in the autumn statement, as the government looks at measures to counter the impending drop in revenue from fuel duty as more people switch to electric vehicles. A paper-mile scheme has been backed by many as the way to solve this issue. Motorists could also see Chancellor Rachel Reeves make changes to car insurance premiums, increase funding for potholes, and unveil funding for more public EV chargers. Posting on X earlier today, Prime Minister Keir Starmer said, "This is a huge day for Britain. After 14 years of decline, we will invest in our country, rebuilding our schools, hospitals and roads. We won't shy away from the tough decisions to grow our economy and protect working people's payslips. There is a brighter future ahead." Electric cars. The public charge point regulations guidance was unveiled last year to ensure EV chargers are more reliable for motorists, with the government giving a 1-year grace period to ensure a number of conditions are met. This includes ensuring that new public charge points of 8 kilowatts and above, and existing charge points of 50 kilowatts and above offer contactless payment options. Rapid public chargers must have a reliability rate of 99%, measured as an average across each charge point operator's rapid network over the calendar year. US presidential election. On November 5th, hundreds of millions of Americans will head to ballots to cast their vote for who they want their next president to be. Democrat Vice President Kamala Harris will be taking on Republican former President Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been vocal in his dislike of electric vehicles, despite his new allegiance with Tesla CEO and founder Elon Musk. Vice President J.D. Vance has also called for more than $100 billion, £77 billion, in existing electric vehicle subsidies to be eliminated in favor of grants for American-made petrol and diesel cars. On the other side of the aisle, Kamala Harris and her VP pick Tim Walz are likely to move ahead with plans to support American workers and crack down on Chinese EVs with strong tariffs. Lastly, Prince Harry's nasty threat to the royal family ahead of the re-release of his controversial memoir, Spare, has been criticised by royal historian and commentator Richard Fitzwilliams. The Duke of Sussex's best-selling book, which launched fresh attacks on his family members and drove a further wedge between him and his brother Prince William, was released in paperback format earlier this month. Speaking in an interview, Fitzwilliams dubbed the decision by the prince to not add any new passages in the book a relief, despite the threat of publishing 400 new pages of scathing claims against the monarchy. Discussing the book's second release with host Nana Akua, Fitzwilliams highlighted the silence from Harry, a contrast to the very public interviews the estranged royal gave ahead of the book's first unveiling to the world. Fitzwilliams explained, "One thing one has to say about the paperback of Spare, at least it didn't include anything new. We know that 400 pages, according to Harry anyway, was originally cut out because it would be too sensitive. That was obviously a nasty threat. He also didn't give any interviews promoting the paperback, which was at least a relief." Delivering his verdict on Prince Harry's most recent work amid his professional separation from wife Meghan Markle, Fitzwilliams claimed that the Duke is embarking on his projects successfully solo and questioned where his decision to work without the Duchess will lead him. Fitzwilliams continued, "Whenever they're silent or doing their own thing, and recently doing it quite successfully solo, we wonder where will all this lead." Discussing Harry's relationship with his brother William, Fitzwilliams claimed that the future king has hinted at a significant development in their deep rift by mentioning him publicly for the first time in several years as part of his new ITV documentary. Fitzwilliams added, The fact that in a documentary to be shown on ITV this week, we've got William mentioning Harry the first time in 6 years. That is extraordinary. However, it is in the context of a visit in 1993 with their mother, Princess Diana, to the Passage, a homeless shelter. Remaining optimistic for a future reconciliation between the royal brothers, the royal commentator affirmed that the decision by William to mention Harry is extraordinary. He said, "It's part of William's drive against homelessness and trying to help the homeless, which of course is admirable. But just mentioning Harry, it's quite extraordinary, given how deep the rift is. But what it would lead to, if it leads to anything, is the huge question mark, obviously." In the ITV documentary, Prince William. "We can end homelessness." The 42-year-old recalled visiting homeless shelters as a child with his mother and Harry. The prince revealed, "I have taken some inspiration and guidance from what my mother did, particularly with homelessness. And that's grown more over the last few years. She took Harry and I both there. I must have been about 11, I think, probably. Maybe 10th. I'd never been to anything like that before." What are your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video? Let me know down in the comments section below. If you've not yet already, make sure you do drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more British content. Thank you. Take care. Goodbye.